Hi there, my lovely friends. I hope you've had a fun week, and thank you very much for joining me on chapters 4 to 6 of A Marriage of Convenience, where we see what happens to Jasper and Avalon now they are married. If you are keen on listening to the first 3 chapters, I will do my best to remember to post the link for it. And yeah, let's just get on with it. Now, I just have to remember how to do this right. I think I do that. And there we go. Chapter 4. By the goddess, he's cute. Hush! Avalon glanced at his new husband, who seemed content enough sitting on a pile of ropes on the lower deck, staring out to sea. Avalon turned back to his friends, who were both ogling the man he'd just married. He doesn't need to hear how cute you think he is. That is neither seemly nor respectful. Go on, admit it. Duncan playfully nudged his side. You're thinking the same thing. He's not how I imagined he would look, that's for sure. Avalon watched Jasper, making sure the man wasn't showing any signs of discomfort. Apart from the hair colour, he looks nothing like his siblings. Which is not a bad thing, Merlin said, keeping his voice low. You could have married Jasper's sister any time and never have. And as for Luigi, he broke off and Mock shuddered, making Avalon chuckle. Luigi suffers the same fate many crown princes seem to go through when they don't have a purpose in life. They spend their time in social gatherings instead of actually moving around the world, helping protect their country or any of the many other things useful crown princes can do. Anytime Avalon felt the urge to overindulge in food, wine, or any other vice, he held the visage of Luigi or the late Crown Prince of Gunkamal, Paragon, as the ideal he didn't aspire to be like. You notice Luigi didn't even turn up for the wedding, nor his wife. He wasn't missed. But what about you and your young prince? You've married him. What are you going to do with him? Duncan asked. To be honest, I'm not sure. Avalon studied the young man again. With his eye patched towards the sea, it wasn't easy to pick that the young prince had suffered any trauma at all. As reported, he was clean, soft-spoken, apparently shy, and that was understandable. He was also a good-looking man, just more delicate than Avalon was used to. Jasper sat upright, his slender frame half turned towards the side of the ship, not looking at anyone or seeming to want to engage with anyone. The look, if Avalon was honest with himself, was one of vulnerability, even with the fetching coronet still lodged in his hair, which was definitely pinging Avalon's protective instincts. You should go and talk to him, Merlin urged quietly. The whole idea of you marrying was to give him the life his mother wished for him. But surely it would be a good idea to find out how he sees that life. Is he expecting to be deposited back in Sijan? Or does he have any hope or expectation about spending time with you? I don't want to scare him off, Avalon admitted. He's got to be scared enough as it is, Duncan said gruffly, and Avalon imagined his friend's protective instincts had also been sparked. He has no advisor, no chaperone. His mother didn't offer to send anyone along to see to his dressing or comfort. I expected to see at least 3 people added to our crew once you married him. Not everywhere has the same standards as in Sijan, although Avalon had wondered the same thing. Can one of you arrange for some food to be prepared in the smaller dining room? He and I should at least have a conversation before I decide where we're going to go next. I'll organise something with the chef. You go and show your new husband around the ship. Merlin and Duncan disappeared in the direction of the galley and sleeping quarters. Heading in Jasper's direction, Avalon could tell the moment his new husband had realised he was close. The man's shoulders tensed and then just as suddenly relaxed again, as if Jasper mentally or physically told himself he was safe. Having never lived like that before, Avalon hoped that he wouldn't do anything to cause Jasper to dive back into his shell and never come out. Free. I'm actually free. Jasper couldn't get enough of watching out across the waves, well aware the land and home where he'd spent his whole life was disappearing behind him. He had nothing to look back for. Everything in his life was changing, but he was moving forward, regardless of how that might look. For the first time since he'd been abducted, or even before that, in truth, Jasper could finally take a full breath. How long that feeling lasted remained to be seen. There was something so incredibly liberating with the way the water surrounded the ship on all sides, and Jasper didn't get any negative vibes from the crew at all. There was curiosity, but Jasper expected that anyway. Wearing a black eye patch, even with one with a discreet monogram in the corner of it, was enough for anyone to look twice in his direction. Unused to being on a ship, Jasper sat incredibly still, side-glancing every few moments to make sure he wasn't in anyone's way. There weren't a huge number of sailors present. Most of the ships seemed to run by mechanical and magical means. It was a shame there was anyone around at all, because Jasper had an overwhelming urge to jump up, yell and scream with the sheer joy of being away from the Lowenthorpe Castle and the ever-pervading threat present within those walls. He wouldn't do that, of course. Jasper learned early on to keep anything he held dear close to his chest. Being the youngest and least athletic of 3 children, his siblings being far more confident than he would ever be, Jasper kept most of how he felt to himself. It was only with his mother that he felt he could ever confide anything, and more recently, not even then. Jasper stiffened as he heard someone approaching. Avalon. Forcing himself to relax, Jasper half turned from where he was sitting. Am I in the way? Is there somewhere else I could sit where I won't bother anyone? I'm unused to ship life, I'm afraid. Ship life was the least of Jasper's concerns, but his husband didn't know that. Avalon's smile was warm. I thought I could sit with you for a while, and then we could share a meal, discuss what happens next. I realize this must be all quite unnerving for you, being spirited away so suddenly. It's happened before. Jasper wished he'd bit his tongue when Avalon winced. This is both welcome and a far more pleasant experience, he added quickly. Jasper didn't want Avalon to ever think he was ungrateful. The man had made a huge personal sacrifice, and Jasper was well aware of what might happen to Avalon's reputation if their marriage became public knowledge outside of Sejan. Jasper was determined Avalon also wouldn't think he was going to be a burden. Did you have somewhere specific in mind to drop me off? Or... He trailed off, unsure how to continue. It wasn't as though he had any ideas of his own of where he could go. The frown was fleeting, but Jasper noted it nonetheless. I think we need to have a private conversation, Avalon said, glancing around. I came into our marriage with few expectations, but I would appreciate your input on how our lives might look together going forward. Expectations? Did Did you actually want to be seen travelling with me? Jasper whispered, staring at his new husband. What if someone sees me with you? I never imagined. I don't know what to say. I just thought you'd drop me off somewhere and we'd likely never see each other again. That's not exactly how marriage works, Avalon said, and Jasper was sure he was imagining the twinkle in his husband's eye. But he took the hand held out to him and stood up, although he almost stumbled when Avalon tucked his fingers around his elbow and added, "Let me show you your new home, shall I?" A home? On this ship? With him and his friends? Jasper wasn't sure if he should feel exhilarated or terrified. So he stamped down any possible feelings at all and paid attention as Avalon started showing him around the ship. Learning possible hiding places was something new Jasper did, but it was all part of his survival skills, and he took that responsibility seriously. Chapter 5. Avalon had always been proud of his crew, but never more so than when he introduced the very timid Jasper in the course of their explorations. Everyone was friendly, respectful, and no one acted as if it was at all weird that their prince and captain had suddenly gotten himself married. If Jasper was concerned about the higher than usual number of guards on the ship, he didn't say anything. But then Avalon figured that if Jasper had never been on a ship before, then he might think it was normal. For his part, Jasper responded when spoken to, always polite, and he gave the appearance of listening to everything going on, although he didn't ask a single question. Avalon was sure the young man must have some, so after half an hour of exploring the ship from one end to the other, he took Jasper down a narrow hallway to the smaller of his 2 staterooms. Usually only Avalon, Duncan, and Merlin used it, but those 2 were back up at the wheel deck, keeping an eye on the crew. "I thought you might be hungry." Avalon led Jasper to a chair, making sure he was settled before going around the table to sit opposite him, lifting the lid on the food warmers. "If I dine in here with Duncan and Merlin, who you met earlier, we usually serve ourselves. Is that a problem? Would you feel more comfortable with someone here to chaperone you?" Jasper tilted his head slightly to one side. "You're serious?" "Thank you. But a chaperone won't be necessary. We are married, and besides, my mother trusts you. Although I don't know you at all, I trust her. But I appreciate you considering my comfort." He reached up, touching the coronet still in his hair. "Do you think it would be all right for me to remove this now? Only I'm not used to wearing it, and I'd hate for it to fall off and damage in some way." "My goodness, yes. Anything, anytime you like." Avalon had taken his off the moment he'd gotten into the carriage that had transported them back to the ship. He had no idea what Merlin did with it, only that it was shiny and always on hand when he needed it. "If you prefer, you can give yours to Merlin to look after, or you can keep it in your room if you'd rather," he added when he noticed the slight downdrop of Jasper's mouth. Jasper rested the coronet beside him on the table and then put his hands in his lap. "You should probably tell me what you want me to do with it. It's not really mine. I do understand that. I don't know Merlin. If he gets upset with me for not giving him it back. If this guy bends over anymore, he'll break his back." "Jasper," Avalon said quietly but firmly, making sure he had his husband's attention. "When you signed the paperwork, you became Crown Prince Consort of Sijan. That coronet is yours. Merlin and Duncan are my friends, and I know over time they will be yours. But regardless, we employ them, you and I. Merlin wouldn't get upset with you even if you threw the coronet overboard on the sea, into the sea. I wouldn't do that. Jasper's eyebrows raised and his hand reached out, stroking the metal. I don't have much, but I look after my things. That's nice to know. Avalon busied himself putting meat and vegetables on Jasper's plate and then filling his own. Do you prefer wine or water with a meal? He indicated the 2 carafes on the table. Just water, please. I've never tried wine. Avalon risked a quick look at his husband, whose shoulders were slightly hunched. Different courts have different rules for when they serve wine, beers, and other beverages, he said, as diplomatically as he could, pouring Jasper a glass of water. Inside, he was quietly seething. He'd seen both Luigi and Felicity well into their cups on more than one occasion over a meal. In Hewitt, all you'd get when you were dining there is rum, whereas in Westland, King Marvin has drink trolleys delivered around the tables that serves every form of alcoholic beverage I've ever heard of. I didn't generally attend society events with the rest of the family. Again, Jasper was looking at his plate. For the longest time, my siblings were busy seeking marriage contracts of their own, and my presence was considered an unnecessary distraction, especially after Jasper's breath caught. After the incident, he finished, and Avalon could tell it cost his husband a lot just to say those words, which could make discussing finding the perpetrators who hurt him difficult. I hope you'll not find it a chore to attend events with me. Honestly, I'm looking forward to being able to socialize and not have to fend off people who saw me as an eligible bachelor when I definitely wasn't, he added quickly, in case Jasper got the wrong idea. Noticing Jasper hadn't started eating, Avalon picked up his fork. Jasper waited until he'd taken a mouthful, then picked up his own utensils. Everything about Jasper's posture suggested he didn't want to be noticed. From the small mouthfuls he took, the way he kept his head down, causing his wavy fringe to cover half of his face. Avalon was hungry. For a while, the only sounds were the clink of knives and forks on the plates. But Avalon couldn't stop taking quick glances at the man he was now married to. Yes, Jasper was trying to blend into the scenery. He'd barely moved at all beyond necessary to convey his food from his plate to his mouth. But there was something else. The stiffness in Jasper's shoulders and the straight line of his spine that didn't touch the back of the chair. He's poised to run, Avalon realized as he finished his meal and pushed his plate aside. Jasper immediately swallowed his mouthful and put these utensils down on a half-finished plate, pushing it away from him. This will not do. Suddenly, Jasper's slender frame took on a more sinister edge. What can I do to help you feel more comfortable with me? Avalon said bluntly. I feel our marriage will be a lot happier for both of us if we learn to communicate with each other. Jasper jumped, then stilled again, his back still perfectly straight, his head slightly bowed. Avalon was starting to see that was Jasper's default posture. I'll go first if that makes things easier. For example, I prefer it when people look at me in the face when they talk to me. Jasper raised his head and blinked slowly. Avalon wondered if Jasper's hidden eyelid made the same motion under the eye patch. Most people find my eye patch off-putting for them, a constant reminder of what I've been through. I don't like to make others uncomfortable. There was strength in those words. Avalon nodded. I haven't got a clue how to say this delicately, so I'll just come out and ask, seeing as we're in a private setting. Have you considered a prosthetic eye, or is the damage to that area? He put his palm up in front of his own face to indicate what he meant, although it was obvious. Too extensive? I didn't notice any other scarring on your face. My mother consulted with the best eye specialist the World Council could recommend. He informed her that because my entire eyeball had been forcibly removed, causing considerable damage to the nerves and connections behind it, the best that could be hoped for was a glass replica, which she and I both agreed would look just as unnatural as the patch. At least with the patch, people recognize who I am and can avoid me. Jasper was doing as Avalon had implied he wanted, looking him in the face, his lips thin, his head slightly angled. I did mention earlier, I fully anticipated you would drop me off somewhere. I didn't expect to be even fed on this fine ship, and I deeply appreciate the meal. However, I do have a few coins, and I'm sure I can make my way, regardless of where you might drop me. The nearest bay would be fine, preferably not somewhere with people, but I will make do, whatever you decide. Reaching for his glass, Avalon leaned back in his chair once it was in his hand. You never asked me why I married you, he said softly. I didn't think it was my business. The question was clearly so concerning, Jasper tilted his head the other way. My apologies. Would you mind telling me why you, the Crown Prince of Sijan, married the third royal son of a tiny country? Worse, considering your social profile and standing among the world's elite, an obviously disfigured and likely ruined son. There was a definite edge to those words, and Avalon internally smirked. His husband wasn't as meek and mild as everybody assumed, nor as cowed as he had been indicated. Timid, yes. Unsure of himself, definitely. But Jasper was no pushover, which made Avalon wonder yet again who his husband was protecting by marrying anyone at all. I have always said that I would never marry. Avalon knew it was time to share a few details only a few people knew. There was someone in my life when I wasn't much younger than you, someone very special to me. The marriage contract was being negotiated when there was a terrible accident. Avalon just stopped. His new husband didn't need the gritty details. It was enough to let the implications hang there. I am so sorry for your loss, Jasper said, and it sounded as though he meant it. I made my father promise that he would never insist on my entering a marriage contract again. Jasper frowned, and there was that little head tilt again, almost as if he was listening to some ghostly voice only he could hear. Then why? I don't understand. I know for a fact I'm not breaking a promise over. I felt you were. I made the decision, not my father. Avalon leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. I only told you because firstly, I truly believe in honesty in all things. And secondly, I feel you and I can be good for each other. Jasper was watching him intently, almost willing him to explain. I don't know what you've been through. And now it was Avalon who picked his words carefully. Only you can decide if and when you ever speak to me about it. I understand. I rarely talk about my younger years, and aside from my father, only Duncan and Merlin know about my previous contract negotiations. I told you because I hope it will help you relax around me. Because it is likely our marriage will be one of friendship only, at least for the foreseeable future. However, I will stand by your side proudly in any interactions we have, and I would hope that you would do the same for me. There was a long moment of silence, and Avalon got the impression Jasper was seeing behind the words he hadn't specifically said. People will talk, Jasper said at last. I didn't bring any honor or increase in status to you in our future friendship, the way you do for me. I can't rank any higher unless I become king, Avalon said with a smile, and my father's not going anywhere anytime soon. I didn't marry you because I thought you could enhance my standing in the known world. I married you because I thought you needed a protector. And in my own way, so do I. When Jasper didn't say anything, Avalon added, for example, I doubt your sister will be arranging a social afternoon tea for me anytime soon. I really struggle to hold those tiny cups in my hands and maintain a conversation without spilling crumbs down my coat. Jasper's eye was a brilliant blue when it sparkled, although Avalon couldn't see his smile because Jasper had covered his mouth with his hand. But it was a start, a good start. Chapter 6. Jasper was bone-numbingly exhausted, but he didn't dare sleep. His cabin was small and perfectly proportioned. The wooden walls gave him privacy, and his small round window fascinated Jasper and gave him a constant view of the sea. The bed was a decent size and a lot more comfortable than Jasper anticipated, and he found it easy to use his trunk as a dresser. He even had his own tiny bathroom that met all his needs and that he didn't have to share with anyone, which Jasper hadn't expected but definitely appreciated. For the past 3 days, he and Avalon would meet for a private breakfast. Then Jasper would pretty much sit and watch out to sea while Avalon took care of messages and correspondence or steered the ship. Sometimes Jasper would talk to Merlin or Duncan if they approached him, but most of the time, Jasper could just savor the sensation of being out in the fresh air, watching strange lands as they sailed past. Are we going to be docking anytime soon? He asked, trying to keep his tone casual, as he and Avalon were sharing boiled eggs and toast on the fourth morning. His husband had already explained they weren't heading back to Sijan for another few weeks, but Jasper wasn't sure if they were just sailing around in circles or what was going on. We can do if you want to. Avalon looked up from his plate and smiled. I'm happy either way, being on the ship or on land. We do have to dock sometimes just to pick up fresh food supplies and refresh the magical crystals that power the ship. Did you have anywhere specific you'd like to visit? I don't even know where we are. All I saw this morning was water. Jasper managed a small smile as he thought quickly. I just thought I'd like to send a few small gifts to my mother and let her know I was all right. Stretch my legs, that sort of thing. Avalon must have accepted his excuse because he nodded. It can feel a bit cramped, even on a ship as big as this. I'll have a chat with Duncan and see what the closest suitable place. I'm sure we can pull into somewhere in the next day or so. Maybe find ourselves some lodgings where we can have a proper bath for a change instead of making do with these tiny showers. How does that sound? That's very thoughtful of you. Thank you. Jasper went back to his breakfast. I just have to stay awake that long. Sire, you have to talk to him, Merlin hissed at Avalon later that day. Can't you see your husband's in distress of some kind? I had noticed he was a little pale, Avalon admitted, but he hasn't said anything, and no one has reported seeing signs of him being sick over the edge of the railings or anything else like that. Do you think he might suffer from motion sickness? He handles the motion of the ship well enough. He's not sleeping, that's the problem, Duncan said brusquely. If those dark shadows under his eye get any deeper, his face will fall into them. How do you know? Apart from his eye, I mean. It wasn't that Avalon didn't trust his friend because he did, but dark shadows under the eyes could be the result of many things. Or could they? We hear him, Merlin said quietly, pacing his cabin at night. The first night we thought it was just wedding night nerves being in a strange place. Maybe he was just too anxious to sleep. But he's done it every night since we came on board, Duncan added. I swear your husband hasn't had a wink of sleep in the past 4 nights. How he's staying upright is incredible. He must nap sometimes, Avalon protested. It's not like you two stay up all night. Maybe he can cope with just a few hours sleep. He's young. We used to stay up all night too at his age. Not every night, and not unless we were attending a party or playing cards, Duncan protested. He's pacing when we go to sleep. He's still pacing when we wake up. Are you telling me he knows our sleeping habits and his times his pacings accordingly? That didn't seem likely. Do you think this has something to do with what he's been through? Avalon glanced over to the corner of the deck where Jasper seemed to like to sit during the day, his fair skin shaded by the giant sails that gently billowed in the light breeze. Nightmares, perhaps? That's possible, Merlin agreed. He might worry if he screams out at night or perhaps falls out of bed. Perhaps he's concerned about disturbing you or us. But most people wouldn't stay continually awake all the time. He's going to fall on his face soon. That's why we think you need to talk to him, Duncan agreed with his partner. Avalon could understand his friend's concerns. He did ask me this morning if we were docking in a harbour any time soon. I suggested we could find somewhere to stay for a night so we could all have a decent bath instead of our customary showers. Do you think that's why he's asking? Is it possible there's something on the ship that's stopping him from sleeping? I can't think what it might be, and you're not going to know unless you ask him, are you? Merlin glanced at his own husband. We could pull into Port Jerry for the night. That has a nice hotel with private suites. But Jasper's going to have to understand if he's not sleeping with you, which he wouldn't be, Avalon said firmly. I wouldn't encroach on his privacy in that way, especially if he isn't sleeping at all. Then he's going to need, at the very least, a guard outside his door, possibly 2 of them, Duncan insisted. Someone's already been after him once and damn near killed him by all accounts. No one seemed to care about his personal safety when we were in Lowenthorpe, but that's not how things work with the royal family of Sejan. Has Jasper been prepared for that reality when we're on land? Avalon sighed. He hadn't even thought of it. I'll talk to him before we dock, he said. He was already sure Jasper wasn't going to be keen, but Duncan made a good point, and Jasper's safety was ultimately Avalon's responsibility. Leaving Duncan in charge of the wheel, Avalon took his time, leaving the wheelhouse and crossing the open deck to where Jasper was sitting on a pile of ropes. The man's spine wasn't as stiff as before, and the shoulders were a little bit more relaxed, but Avalon still noticed the subdued flinch before Jasper recovered himself. Is everything all right? Jasper's face had some colour from being outdoors a lot more often than his earlier pallor suggested he'd been. You and your friends all seemed very serious. Sorry about that. Swinging his leg over another pile of ropes, Avalon sat so he was facing his husband. I thought we'd call into Port Jerry this afternoon. It'll give the chef the chance to order in fresh supplies. Is there any particular foods you'd like us to include on the list? No, but thank you for asking. Jasper gave a quick shake of his head. The chef is very talented. The food on board is lovely. You'll see I'm a man of simple means and I don't like to make a fuss. I'm glad to hear that. About not making the fuss business, I mean, but for a totally different reason. Avalon paused for a moment. When we're in Port Jerry, we can stay at a hotel for the night. It's a very respectable establishment. I've stayed there before. You will, of course, have your own room, as you do here on the ship. However, because it's a public house, I will be posting guards on your door, and my own, for our protection. Avalon expected Jasper to frown and shake his head. He didn't expect the blunt, I can't allow that, sorry. Jasper, you're in a position of authority now. I would not sleep easy knowing you were unguarded in your quarters. I appreciate your concerns and I feel awful being so resistant on this matter, especially when I just said I don't like to make a fuss. Jasper looked out across the water. The ship had already turned and the land was slowly appearing on the horizon. Your men would be allowed shore leave, would they not? I could stay on the ship alone and nobody would know but your friends, you and your friends. Would that make things easier for you? Jasper, you are not making any sense. Without thinking, Avalon reached for Jasper's hands, holding them firmly, although Jasper didn't pull away. He was just staring at where their hands were joined. Remember when I talked about honesty? Avalon lowered his voice. We're married now. There is nothing you can't tell me that will cause me to break the vows we shared. You are not sleeping, and I fear you must or you'll get ill. Please tell me what is going on. Do you suffer from nightmares, perhaps? Some. Jasper's head turned again, and all Avalon could see was the patch and the firm set of his jaw. Then surely you would sleep easier if you knew your door was guarded. My nightmares have side effects. Jasper was back, looking at their joined hands. His voice was so low Avalon had to strain to hear. Magical ones. I know I should have mentioned this before, but I don't dare sleep on the ship in case I hurt someone or cause irreparable damage to the vessel. Magic? Avalon quickly glanced around, but no one was within hearing distance. As in you can spark small fires and move candlesticks on tabletops? I wish that was all that happened. Jasper shook his head. I'm exhausted. That's very true. But the worry of what could happen keeps me awake. I don't know how much longer. If anyone got hurt... By the moon goddess, you should have told me. Avalon was gutted. His husband was suffering in silence. I'm taking you to my room. I need details. You should just drop me off somewhere. As Jasper looked up, Avalon saw a single tear bloom in the corner of his eye. I thought my inner turmoil would be better once I left the castle, but it seems my torments are determined to haunt me wherever I go. I am so sorry. You've done nothing to be sorry about. Don't start by not letting me help you now. Encouraging Jasper to his feet, Avalon looked up to the wheel deck, where Duncan and Merlin were doing a rotten impression of not trying to listen in. Carry on to port. My husband and I are not to be disturbed. We'll be in my quarters. They're going to think we're up to no good, Jasper hissed as Avalon kept a hold on his arm, escorting him to his personal quarters. We're married. They can think what they like. Chapter 7. I must not break down. I must stay strong just a short while longer. Jasper was sure, despite Avalon's determination, that when he heard of his concerns, the man would rightly put him off the ship. Back at the castle, no one cared when he screamed, and after, "Please, have a seat." Avalon locked his cabin door, indicating to the small seating area that held 3 comfortable chairs. "We won't be disturbed. I need to know how I can help you." "I doubt that you can." Jasper sat simply because standing was going to be an effort. His magic and fears mixed together made a powerful fuel used for keeping him awake, but after 4 days it was fast losing its effectiveness. "Please explain." "You really do want to help, don't you?" Despite his worries, Jasper couldn't help smiling. "Which is why I need you to talk to me." Avalon looked so earnest, Jasper wished with all he was that this situation could have been different. "The least you can do is be honest with him." "I'm not sure where I can start." "Start at the beginning. Have you always had magical ability?" Jasper nodded. "I was born that way. I was the only one in our family. My parents and siblings didn't have any at all, so it was all a bit of a shock to them." "That's unheard of." Jasper understood his husband's frown. The rare few people who are born with magic usually come from parents with similar lineage. "You can check my birth record with the World Council officers. My mother and father, the late king, and Queen Fiona, are both listed on it." Avalon held up his hands. "I'm not disputing your lineage or the actions of your parents. I'm just saying it's unusual." "It is what it is. But the fact I had magic and my siblings didn't meant I was often excluded from social gatherings, as you already know. Lowenthorpe uses magic extensively in the way the country operates, but all of that magic comes from the crystal deals my father negotiated with the King of Marincourt well before he died. Magic in a person wasn't considered seemly." Jasper swallowed hard. "Even my mother didn't understand, although I never doubted how much she cares about me." "I lost my mother in the same accident that claimed my fiancé," Avalon said, and the weight of his sadness pressed on Jasper's shoulders. "But prior to that, I was loved in the same way by mine. Our mothers don't necessarily understand us, but they love regardless." "Thank you for your understanding, and again, I am sorry for your loss." "That's appreciated. But tell me why this magic you've lived with all your life, with apparently few negative issues, is causing you not to sleep now." Jasper fidgeted in his seat. He knew anything he said was going to sound crazy. "My magic is like a living entity inside of me. It always has been. At one point when I was around 14, Luigi convinced my mother I was actually possessed and insisted I be locked away. She called in someone from the World Council's University of Magic, and he came and did a whole stack of tests. That can't have been pleasant." Avalon got up and went to a small cabinet. "Would you like some water or wine?" "Just water, please." Jasper waited until Avalon got them both drinks and took the water when offered. So what did the testing show? Avalon got comfortable in his chair. Again, if it was anything terrible, your mother has done a brilliant job of keeping things quiet. The oblique slur against his mother's stung. Would it make you feel better to know you'd married a possessed man? I'm so sorry to disappoint you. You talk about conjuring fire. Jasper held out his palm that filled with flames. How big a vial would you like? At Avalon's shock, he quickly closed his hand again. Maybe you'd prefer water to wine. He flicked his finger at Avalon's glass. Taste it. Isn't water better for you in the middle of the afternoon? I didn't mean to insult you or your mother, Avalon said quietly as he took a cautious sip from his goblet. My gods, that is water. How did you do that? The magic that lives in me. For the most part benign. Happy to produce party tricks on occasion. Unusual enough, my siblings shunned me for the most part, but that was understandable too. A lot of people hate what they don't understand. I should know. What do you mean? To his credit, Avalon was drinking the water. Another aspect of my magic is that I can sense things, usually feelings people might try to hide. My mother actually believed I was a seer at one point, but my eyes have always been different, even before this. Jasper touched the corner of his eye patch. Was that why your eye was taken? Was it a different color to the other one? Jasper didn't hear or feel any judgment coming from his husband. Do you want to see for yourself? I'd be interested to know what you see. My eye, before it was taken, looked like my other one in terms of shape and size, but the iris was white. My mother commissioned a small contact lens to change the color, so it wasn't noticeable in public, but that's what it looked like without artifice. Avalon leaned forward in his chair. Would you mind showing me? Here goes nothing. Jasper ran his fingers under the bottom of his patch and lifted it clear from his face, pulling it off completely and shaking out his hair. I thought you said you lost your eye. Avalon was almost bent over double, peering intently. What do you see? Jasper willed himself to be still. Since he'd been abducted, he'd been overly sensitive to people studying his face. Being tired made it doubly difficult. I see an eye just like you described, the same shape and size as your blue one, but with a white iris. How did you... It's an illusion. My magic must like you. Jasper slipped the patch back over his head and into place. When Luigi insisted on seeing it after I was returned, he ran screaming from the room, claiming he could see hell in my eye socket. Jasper sighed. But now, can you see why I don't dare sleep in a situation where I might hurt someone? No, not from this at least. Avalon sat back in his chair. If the magic is all an illusion... No. Jasper held up his hand, shaking his head. You see an illusion in my eye socket. That is still empty. I have no eye there. But the flames I held in my palm would burn you, and the water you were drinking was poured from a wine bottle. They are very real. I'm still not seeing why you can't sleep because of it. You can't have stayed awake your whole life. My magic used to be like a simmering pot, and I would sleep just like you do, I imagine. Jasper struggled to find the words to explain. No one had ever really asked him how he viewed the entity inside of him, not even the man from the university. Occasionally, when I'd wake up, a few things might have been moved around, or there were times when my bedclothes were a different color, just harmless things that didn't concern anyone else. I can't see that being a problem on the ship. It doesn't sound like your magic changes anything structurally. It never used to. Jasper covered a yawn with his hand, then quickly stood up. It was easier to stay awake if he was moving around when he was inside. Outside, the breeze did the job for him. I don't expect you to understand what I went through, and I'm not about to go into that now. I'm not sure if I could ever explain to a living soul. You don't have to tell me what happened in the past, but this is impacting your ability to sleep now. Smart man. And yes, Jasper was feeling snippy, but he was so damn tired and having to explain when all he wanted was a cave somewhere where he could lay his head down and actually let his body rest, even if his mind couldn't. My magic is furious about what happened to me, he burst out. Livid. Something they did. No, I won't go into that. But my magic was restrained during my captivity. And like a caged wild animal, when I was finally free of them, it wanted to rampage. The first night it returned, maybe a week after I was found in the castle courtyard when I woke up, my entire room was trashed. And there were scorch marks on the stone walls. And yes, there was only me there. My mother, my poor mother, was obviously distraught about the whole thing. Your magic, and yes, you're right, I do feel uncomfortable talking about it as a separate entity, but we'll just go with that for the moment. Your magic wants revenge on the people who took you. Is that what you're saying? Jasper nodded. Then why have you never said who it was? Don't you realize we're carrying extra troops on this ship so we could cut down the people responsible if that's what you wanted? I guessed. Jasper tapped the corner of his covered eye socket. But I can't do that. And because I can't do that, my magic is angry and holding me hostage. And if I fall asleep, I could do some terrible damage to a ship. I don't want to do that to you. Then why, in all that's holy, if you're genuinely concerned about the people on board this vessel, did you get on the ship with me in the first place? Avalon was on his feet, his hands clenched at his side. I thought you were going to drop me off somewhere, Jasper cried. And then, when you talked to me, and I thought this could work between us, I tried to reason with the feelings inside. But you had the troops, and my magic wants revenge in the worst way. That's not your magic. Avalon crossed the distance between them, grabbing Jasper by the shoulders. Don't you understand that's not your magic? You want revenge. You, and rightly so. That's why your magic is playing up. It's not a different entity, it's you. Admit it, man. Tell me why you won't let us go after those who hurt you. Tell me. Jasper looked up, meeting Avalon's eyes. They said they'd kill my mother, Jasper whispered, barely able to get the words past his lips. Can't you see? They said if they caught wind anyone was after them at all, they would kill my mother, the Queen, and I believed them. That's why you agreed to marry anyone who asked. It wasn't a question. Jasper could feel Avalon's realization, like the warmth from a log fire. You thought if you could get away from the castle, no matter what that marriage might look like, that those who took you would leave your mother alone. Nodding, Jasper did something he never believed possible and rested his head on Avalon's bicep. I am so damned tired. You are also a damned fool for trying to cope with this all by yourself. Unbelievably, Avalon pulled him close, his arms strong behind Jasper's back. Fortunately now, you don't have to. Sleep, husband. I'll wake you if the magic stirs. Jasper closed his eyes, letting Avalon move him towards a bed that was a lot bigger than the one he'd been allocated. But that didn't matter. It was as if When Jasper voiced what was going on, it was as if he'd given his tiredness the power to overwhelm him. If I can't trust my husband, then what have I got left? Oops. And there you go, my friends. I know I said at the beginning it was only going to be 3 chapters. And then as I was recording, I noticed that it was actually shorter than the hour or so I actually wanted this video to be. So I read 4 chapters instead. And I will do another reading, will be a continuation of the story on next Saturday. So look forward to it then. If you are a writer looking for writing assistance and help like that, I make those long form videos on Mondays and Thursdays. And if you're a reader, then come back on Saturday evenings for my readings. I'm not sure if they're going to do my channel any good or not, but I'm actually enjoying making them. So we're just going to go with it for now. In the meantime, please keep writing. Please have an awesome weekend. And yeah, until next time, my friend. Bye. Oh, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because apparently that's important. Thank you. Bye.